you to the mid-morning japa session. I thank all of you for attending this session. Please forgive me for interrupting your ecstatic chanting. Let us move to our next part of the session, which is Srimad Bhagavad Gita, chapter 14 summary. Before we start, may I know who all have joined the call this morning?
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandvat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. This is Neetu from Baltimore.
Hare Krishna Nitu Mataji, Dandvat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Thank you very much, Mataji, for joining every day. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeshmati Mataji. This is Kamadati Dasi from Baltimore. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Guru Maharaj and all the devotees. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Kaumudiki Mataji. Dandvat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Thank you very much, Mataji, for joining every single day. Hare Krishna.
Mataji, how is your health?
I am suffering from coughing, some little.
I hope you get better soon.
Sure.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranams, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. My obeisances to all the devotees here. I'm Sumi from San Mateo.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandvat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Thank you very much, Mataji, for joining the call. Hare Krishna.
Krishna Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances to Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna Priti Vilasini Mataji. Dandvat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Thank you very much, Mataji, for your all services and joining every single day, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Is there anybody else in the call?
Hare Krishna Mataji, I'm Indu and my father is Saldua. We are from India. My father is 88-year-old. He is also in the class. And he's in a different flat. He's old, so he'll not be able to unmute.
Sure,
Mute or
Mataji.
unmute.
Hare Krishna, Indu Mataji, and Hare Krishna, your dear
I
daddy.
motivated him to listen to the class, to be in the class.
So good, Mataji. Thank you. Hindu Mataji, Dandvat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. Thank you very much, Mataji, for joining and giving the support to your dear daddy. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandvat Pranam to Sukha Krishnadas from Chennai. Thanks for allowing me to join the Bhakti Sangha class. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Sukhakar Krishna Das Prabhuji, Dandvat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Thank you very much, Prabhuji, for every day your questioning and very nice, inspiring questions. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Bahut dhanyawad, bahut dhanyawad. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna Mataji, this is Sagari, Devi, Dasi. Dandvat Pranams to all the devotees, all glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga and Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna, Sagari, Devi Mataji, Dandvat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Thank you very much, Mataji, and we are eagerly waiting from the summary from you, Bhagavad Gita chapter 14 summary, and your services. Hare Krishna.
Mataji, chapter recording, and you can read Prabhupada's quote and then introduction and then hand over.
Mataji, can you send me the quote right now, because I didn't open the port.
Okay, Mataji, just give me a second. At all. So can you read, Mataji?
Yes, Mataji. Thank you, Mataji. I would like to read today's Prabhupada's quote, December 21st. This Krishna consciousness movement is for appreciating, approaching Radha Krishna to be associated with the Supreme Lord in his sublime pleasure dance. That is the aim of Krishna consciousness. Los Angeles, December 21st, 1968. Thank you, Mataji. So before we start today's summary, Bhagavad Gita summary, chapter 14, I would like to brief introduction about the Mataji, Sagari Devi Mataji. So, yeah, there is a description over here for her services. Her Grace Sagari Mataji is a disciple of his Giriraj Swami, His Holiness Giriraj Swami Maharaj. She has been in Krishna conscious for over a couple of decades. She likes to sing kirtans and bhajans for the Lord. She is also very well read and gives beautiful classes. Her recent popular classes were the Sundarkand, Ramayana, and the Bhagavad Gita series. She has various services in the Houston Temple on a regular basis, and she is an active participant of the Bhakti Sangha classes. She teaches Madhav Youth Bhajan classes, summer camp classes, adult Bhagavad Gita outreach classes, and CC classes, Wednesday Srila Prabhupada verses. So this is the brief introduction about the Mataji, Sagari Mataji, and today we are so fortunate to have her on this call, and she is going to do the summary of the chapter Bhagavad Gita, chapter 14. So thank you very much, Mataji. Dandvat Pranam. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to Guru Maharaj. Thank you very much for giving your very, very valuable time and association to us this morning and enlightening us on this topic about chapter 14. I now hand over call to you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji, for allowing me to speak on this.
Sorry.
Can you hear me?
Yes, now I can hear you. Before I couldn't.
Okay, sorry. I don't know why my PC acts up at times. Yeah, thank you so much. I would like to express my gratitude to the organizers for giving me this opportunity to purify myself, in the process, and also share a few thoughts about chapter 14 of Bhagavad Gita. And Mataji, thank you for the kind introduction, but I'm so sorry I didn't catch your name. It just says iPhone there.
And then the
Oh, okay. Yeah, thank you so much, Yashomati. Thank you so much. Let me quickly share the slideshow, and then we can get started from there. Today, as Mataji mentioned earlier, we will be trying to discuss chapter 14 of the Bhagavad Gita. And it talks about the three modes of material nature. And in Sanskrit, it's called Gunatraya Vibhaga Yoga. And previously in chapter 13, we discussed Kshetra Kshetrajna Vibhaga Yoga. So that talked about the nature, enjoy, and the consciousness. And that was a beautiful session we had yesterday, and which gave idea of, how of who we are, who are the two kshetrajñas, what is the kshetra, what is the knowledge, what is jnanam, jnayam, jnanagamyam, and things like that. So basically, so far we've seen in the Bhagavad Gita that the first 6 chapters give us the basic knowledge, or like the analytical knowledge in one sense, of who we are. The soul is imperishable and things like that. And what is transcendental knowledge, what is karma yoga, and different types of yogas are discussed. And then the chapters 7 to 12, they give a glimpse into devotional service as a practice and the goal. So technically, between the first 12 chapters, all the truths are given. So why is there an extension, from chapter 13 through 18? Why even have those? Because we have discussed the highest goal, the devotional service there, and all the truths have been the Guhya, Guhyatara, and the Guhyatama. All the aspects have been discussed. So why are we even having another section from chapter 13 through 18? So I was listening to a class recently by Bhagwan Keshav Maharaj, and he was mentioning that Swayam Keshav Bhagwan Maharaj. Sorry if I'm getting the name wrong. So he was mentioning that basically the knowledge, what needs to be done, everything has been given in the first few chapters. But then from chapters 13 to 18, the most common questions we get when a person takes to Krishna consciousness or takes to the spiritual life is, hey, I'm going through this problem today. I don't know what to do about it. I think I'm in a mode of passion, or I think I'm in mode of goodness, or in a mix of modes. I don't know how to react to this situation. There always seems to be some problem there. So we are all embroiled in this ocean of samsara in that sense. So, and we need practical kind of ways or methods or techniques to actually wade our way through this ocean of samsara. So these chapters 13 through 18, they give us that practical kind of viewpoint, like how do you actually face this world? How do we actually live in this world and also practice devotional service? Because we are always bombarded by these 3 modes and different factors, by all the kleshas and things like that. So how do we actually be a part of this world, but then again not be a part of it too? So that's why these 13 through 18 chapters are very practical insights into how we can fight this war with Maya, like that, and how we can be fixed in our devotion. So the last chapter gives us gave us an idea of what our positions are, who are the players in this scheme of things. And now this chapter is actually giving us what actually binds us, or what actually drives us to do these actions in this material world, and how we can still be aloof from them. So that's what this chapter 14 will actually give insight to even recognize to some point as to how are we functioning in this world. Are we more in the mode of goodness, or are we in the mode of passion? How do we recognize that, what modes are influencing us more, and how are we getting influenced by the modes more, like that. So this chapter will give us a lot of light into looking at the characteristics and how these modes bind us and things like that. So it's again another practical viewpoint into how we can try to distance ourselves from this modes and take to the path of bhakti, like that. So with that brief introduction, I'd like to recite the invocation prayers. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाखया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिन्निति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Okay, let's see how we segue into chapter 14 from chapter 13. This is mentioned as the link verse from chapter 13 to chapter 14. This is verse 13.22. I'll just read the Sanskrit and the translation. Purusha prakritisto hi bhunte prakritijan gunan karanam gunasangosya sadasatnyoni janmasu. The living entity in material nature thus follows the way of life, enjoying the three modes of nature. This is due to his association with that material nature. Thus he moves with good and evil among various species. So in the previous chapter, we saw that it's the desire of the living entity to enjoy independently from the Lord, right? That we are thrown into this material world. And then by the action of these three modes, as mentioned in this verse, what happens is we are still bound. We still, go through the same cycle of samsara, birth, death over and over again, because we tend to identify with this material body and also let the modes actually influence us in that sense. So this is the link verse. There's also another verse towards the end of the chapter, which says kshetra kshetrajnayorevam antaram jnana chakshusha bhuta prakriti moksham cha ye viduryanti te param. Those who see with eyes of knowledge the difference between the body and the knower of the body, and can also understand the process of liberation from bondage in material nature, attain to that supreme goal. So this is the concluding verse from chapter 13. And then we see in chapter 14, we see that Lord Krishna actually starts off with the first verse where he says that now I'm going to share this greatest, transcendental knowledge to you, by which you can overcome these modes of material nature. So that's how chapter 14 starts off, where Krishna says that he's going to reveal the greatest knowledge, like that. So the chapter 14 can be summarized in the form of this acronym. So this is again taken from His Holiness Swayam Bhagavan Keshav Maharaj's book on Bhagavad Gita, which actually gives very beautiful acronyms for each of the chapters for the Bhagavad Gita. So as we can see, the first 9 chapters, they discuss what the 3 modes of nature, material nature are, and how one person is bound. How do we know that we are kind of bound to this mode of material nature? And then the verses 10 to 13, they describe how each mode of material nature tries to raise for prominence. Like sometimes we see ourselves being influenced more, we are more in the mode of passion, or sometimes more in ignorance. So the race for prominence can be seen there. So then the third section of verses 14 through 18 describes actions in these modes, and also like what are the various destinations a person reaches in these modes. And then the last acronym P stands for pure life. So this is where Krishna reveals the truth. Like he says that I'm going to give you the greatest knowledge. So this is where, there is a connecting verse between 19th is the connecting verse between the first half of the chapter and then the second, where Krishna actually gives away how one person can be in the material world but still be not a part of it. So this is in basic the summary of this chapter. And let's move on to the first verse. Param bhuya pravakshyami jnananam jnanamuttamam yajñatva munaya sarve param siddhim ito gataha. Again, I shall declare to you the supreme wisdom, the best of all knowledge, knowing which all the sages have attained the supreme perfection. So we see several points through the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna is actually giving away this knowledge in so many different forms, right? And again, we will see that in these chapters 13 through 18, we will basically be touching on those same aspects which were discussed earlier, but in a more practical kind of context. So in this chapter, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna, explains what those modes of material nature are, how they act, how they bind, and how they give liberation. So also, like we see, like Krishna doesn't give away a truth just like that. He gives the basis for the truth, and he quotes the Brahmanas. So we see that knowing which all sages. So he's giving testimonial here. Krishna is giving us a testimonial that several sages have followed this path, and that's how they have attained the supreme perfection. Krishna usually doesn't say that, hey, listen, this is what I'm proposed, so you should be doing this. So in several points to the Gita, we also see mention of several sages who have taken to this transcendental path and how they achieve perfection. So Krishna gives this testimonial, to reassure us that this is the best knowledge and the supreme knowledge by which we can actually cross this material ocean. So many times, when we are trying to seek some knowledge, or trying to seek something which we may not be aware of, we tend to Google, right? And we also tend to read some reviews here and there and see, hey, is this a good product? Should I be even buying it? Are there any negative reviews? I mean, what could go wrong? So we don't just go and just buy something just for the heck of it. So we actually do some research and try to see if there are any reviews, are there any testimonials or things like that, which can further corroborate our faith in that product. So the similar way, here we see that so here we see that here Krishna is giving us that assurance here, knowing which all the sages, they have attained the supreme perfection. So the testimonial is right there. The references are right there. So that, we can to actually make the user feel more confident in this process. To make the reader feel more confident in this process. So Krishna gives also Krishna gives all the credit to his devotees. He is Bhakta Jana Vatsala, like he is very fond of his devotees, and many of occasions we've seen that Krishna never likes to take credit for himself. On the contrary, he likes to, his devotees to be actually praised, and his devotees. So even the Bhagavad Gita, it was spoken to Arjuna. Krishna could have just given the science, but he wanted to actually glorify his devotee, Arjuna, he's such a great devotee, and he was the one who was privileged to hear this science of yoga from Krishna. So in that way, Krishna glorifies his pure devotees, and he gives the credit to them. He never wants to take the credit. We see in the material world, right? Everywhere, even in our theses or documents or whatever, everywhere we cite the sources, right? Like we need to give that credit there. But Krishna is such a person who never wants to take the credit. Here too, we see in this verse that he is actually giving, the testimonial of the sages who have attained perfection through this path. So in this way, Krishna first establishes that he's going to be actually sharing this knowledge with us, the supreme knowledge. And then what happens? That's what, sorry. And then the next verse, we can see what will happen by this knowledge. Idam jnanamupashritya mama sadharmyamagataha sargepi nopajayante pralayena vyathanti cha. By taking shelter of this knowledge, one can attain the same nature or form as mine. One is free from repeated birth and death again. Okay, so in universal creation, or experience the pain of death at a universal dissolution. Generally, in the material world, whatever knowledge we get is contaminated by the three modes of material nature. Knowledge which is not contaminated by the three modes of nature is called transcendental knowledge. So by practicing and in this process gaining the transcendental knowledge, and by practicing bhakti yoga, what happens is we can attain the same nature or the same abode of Lord Krishna. So that's what is being described in the first two shlokas. The third shloka and the fourth shloka actually discuss how this living entity comes into contact with Prakriti. Like I had mentioned earlier, um, it's the desire to enjoy independently from the Lord, or to lord it over the material nature, as Prabhupada describes in one of the purports. The tendency to lord it over material nature, that's what brings a living entity to this material world. And the mechanics of this process, how actually this happens, is described in these verses. So Krishna is the seed-giving father, and Prakriti is the mother of all jivas. Let's read the verse and try to understand how this actually happens, how the material entity is actually thrown into this material world like that. Sarvayonishu kaunteya mutaya sambhavanti yah tasam brahma mahadyonir aham bija pradah pita. All species of life, O son of Kunti, are made possible by birth. In this material nature, the mother, I'm the seed, in this material nature, I'm the seed-giving father. In this verse, it is clearly explained that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, is the original father of all living entities. So a question may arise, right? We always hear Shama Krishna Sodari, Sarasi Janaba Sodhari. Like Krishna is actually, Durga is actually the sister of Lord Krishna, right? So Prabhupada explains in one of his classes that though Krishna is the seed-giving father, Shambhu, he acts through the medium of Shambhu, the glance of Krishna, through which the Kala and the Jivas and their Swabhavas are impregnated into Mother Nature. That is actually carried by the agency of Shambhu, and it's not directly done by Lord Krishna. So that way, Shiva is like, in one sense, the father of this material creation, and Prakriti is the mother, like Durga is the mother of all jivas, like that. So Krishna is not directly involved, in the process, but through his agency, through his glance, this is how the creation actually takes place. But nonetheless, Krishna is a seed-giving father. Prabhupada also describes in the purport that many times, especially those days, when I was growing up as a child in my grandma's house, there used to be these large sacks of grain or rice there, and there was this promise of small scorpions coming out of those rice grains. But then it's not like the rice itself gave birth to this scorpion which comes out. Is Prabhupada explains in the purport that at some point of time, maybe there were some like eggs laid there in the in the rice, the big silos where the rice is stored, like those big godowns as they call in India. So maybe there's some scorpions got through there and laid some eggs, and those eggs happen to hatch after the rice was brought to your home, like that. So it doesn't mean that rice gave birth to the scorpion. There were some eggs like that. So similarly, though one may attribute that mother nature is actually giving birth to all these living entities, and all of us are coming from mother nature, but then we have to understand the ultimate hand behind all this, that Krishna is the seed-giving father, and Krishna is declaring that openly here, aham bija pradapita. So it's very openly declared here in the Bhagavad Gita that though mother nature is actually like how a mother, she actually provides the womb, where the child soul actually develops and also gets a body, the form. So similarly, Mother Nature with, the 24 elements and things like that, gives shape to this jiva, the soul, because of his past impressions. So the swabhava and that past karma, all those are impregnated. And then according to that Mother Nature, she actually gives the whole, the material body to this living entity to fulfill his or her desires, like that. So Krishna is the seed-giving father, and Prakriti is the mother of all the jivas. So this is what Krishna is trying to explain here. Next, we will move on to see how these material modes actually bind the pure jiva. So in its constitutional position, the soul is, a Satchidananda, right? It's a small spark. It's a little tiny spark of these, the big fire, like Krishna, who is the supreme Satchidananda. So we also carry the same qualities. The soul carries the same qualities as the supreme Brahman, like that, but in minute quantities. And but then what happens is, when this desire, this, like I said, the swabhava of the soul is, to lord it over the material nature, at that time, they take, like Krishna, aham bija pradapita, he puts them in this material world so that they can actually experience and enjoy what they desire to, like that. So this is what is being discussed here, how, once put into the material world, Prabhupada says in one of these purports that the living entity is actually helpless. Once you are in this we are in this material body, there's not much, there's only so much leeway, we can do. Like, for example, examples are also given of how a person boarding a flight, the destination is already decided, and then you're in that confined space, and there's only so much you can do. But what can you do, in the flight duration? Like, what can you actually do? Like, there are people who may be watching a movie, or there's people who may be just sleeping through the whole journey, or there's people, or you could chant or read a book, about Krishna, like this. So what you actually do on the journey is the freedom you get, right? Is the minute freedom the entity has, like that. So we are in one sense actually bound, by this material nature. Sometimes we do think, right, when we are engaged in devotional service, oh God, I wish I had extra energy, I could wake up early and do this and this and this, but my body is just not allowing me to do that. So like in that sense, we are bound, right, by this material body. There's like so much only we can do. But then Krishna gives a solution. How, when we are so helplessly bound in this material nature, how can we still be free? So we will go to that part, soon, after a few verses, where we'll see how these modes actually bind us. So this is the verse which discusses how these three modes bind us. Sattvam rajastamaiti guna prakriti sambhava nibadnanti mahabaho dehe dehinam avyayam. Goodness, passion, and ignorance, these three gunas are produced by of material nature. O mighty armed one, they bind the changeless living entity in the material body. So here very clearly, dehe dehinam avyayam. The changeless living entity here is being referred to, it is the soul. We saw, right? In the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, the soul cannot be cut to pieces, the soul cannot be burned, the soul cannot be moistened, it's imperishable, it's always existing. Like so many verses we saw, right, in the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. So, but then what happens? Once thrown into this material world, these gunas, they actually start to, the living entity, forgets his real position, and he assumes that this is my real, the world I'm seeing around me is actually the real thing, and tries to identify with this. And that's when he or she starts to feel the suffering, happiness, pain, joy, and all these dualities of material nature are experienced by the living entity. Let's read on. The living entity, because he is transcendental, has nothing to do with this material nature. Still, because he has become conditioned by the material world, he is acting under the spell of the three modes of material nature. Because living entities have different kinds of bodies in terms of the different aspects of nature, they are induced to act according to that nature. This is the cause of the varieties of happiness and distress. So the living entity actually gives in, to these material kind of enticement. Mother nature is always trying to entice us in different ways, right? Like that. And because of our some longing desire inside of us, to enjoy this material nature, we tend to give in to that too. We will see in a few slides how our swabhava actually affects how we are we more attracted to the material nature, and are we more under the grips of Maya, or how can we be still aloof from the grips of Maya? So we'll see in a few slides. So basically, this is what has been given here, that when the living entity tries to identify with the material nature, he becomes more and more bound by this material nature. And we'll see how these different modes actually bind the living entity one by one. Bondage by Sattva Guna. Tatra sattvam nirmalatvat prakashakam anamayam sukha sanghena bhadnati jnana sanghena janagha. The mode of goodness is the purest of the three modes. It is illuminating and frees one from sins and distress. Those situated in the mode become conditioned by a sense of happiness and knowledge. O sinless Arjuna. Anagha. Anagha means sinless. It's a nice name, if anybody's. I know of a friend whose daughter's name is Anagha. It's a very beautiful name. Oh, sinless Arjuna. So here we see that the mode of goodness is very purifying, right? Where there's knowledge, there's light, right? So it is very illuminating too, like usually the morning hours are compared to, compared to be in the mode of goodness, because those are the hours that you would practice your spiritual life, the Brahma Murta hours, where you would do your chanting, or your reading and things like that. The first few hours of the morning are very blissful by nature, and they're very illuminating, because knowledge is something that makes you happy, right? Like, in that sense, it gives you a sense of in one sense, a sense of control. And we'll see why this sattva guna, this mode of goodness, is again being too attached to this mode of goodness also can be a bondage, like a means to bondage. So that's being discussed in this paragraph. The difficulty here is that when a living entity is situated in the mode of goodness, he becomes conditioned to feel that he is advanced in knowledge and is better than others. In this way, he becomes conditioned. The best examples are the scientist and the philosopher. Each is very proud of his knowledge, and because they generally improve their living conditions, they feel a sort of material happiness. This sense of advanced happiness in conditioned life makes them bound by the modes of goodness of material nature. So this is how material nature, the mode of goodness actually binds us. Once there was this seminar, by the head pujari of Mayapur. He had come to give us a seminar on deity worship in Houston. And there were several questions to Prabhuji. I tend to forget his name, but there were several questions to Prabhuji. Prabhuji, can we do this? Is it okay to be this? Should I clean, do Ashman this point? Is it okay? Is it unclean to do that? Like so many questions. And then Prabhuji just said one thing, at the end, there are many questions, and there are perhaps many ways, we would be making mistakes in our deity worship. But please remember, the principle is that we have to do the deity worship with, great love and devotion to the Lord. So that's what in the end matters. So, trying to be too perfect, like a person in a mode of goodness, sometimes we do find ourselves, right? Hey, I want to be the best virtuous person. I will never lie. I will never do this. I will never do that. Like so many different, we tend to attribute these different virtues, and say that I will be perfect. I'm never going to do this. And I'm going to be like the best person on earth, like that. But then we may miss the actual aim or the actual goal of trying to be good in that sense, and we may forget Krishna in the process. So that's what is being discussed here. So too much in the mode of goodness can give us that complacency, because we have that knowledge and we feel happiness within, and we experience some kind of bliss, but so that can set in a sense of complacency, and we may not we may tend to move away from this path of devotional service and may not achieve the ultimate aim of Shuddha Sattva. So that's what is the bondage by Sattva Guna is, that we need to be aware of. And the second is the bondage by Rajoguna. रजोरागात्मकं विद्धि तृष्णा संगसमुद्भवं तन्निबध्नाति कौन्तेय कर्मसंगेन देहिनम्. The mode of passion is born of desire, attachment for the attained and longing for the unattained, O son of Kunti, and because of this, the embodied living entity is bound to material fruitive actions. So this mode of passion is, we see mostly in Kali Yuga, right? We are all in mode of passion or in mode of ignorance in that sense, always trying to achieve, always trying to beat the clock. Mataji, I don't have time for this. I don't think I have the time to do this. I am busy. I have something planned for the morning, something for the afternoon, something for the evening. So our lives are so busy, right? Not necessarily because we want it to be that way, but in one sense, the Kali Yuga propels us into, all this kind of busy activity of our life like that. So this mode of passion is very obvious in Kali Yuga, where we're always, trying to fulfill something through the day. Hey, I have this plan, that plan. I need to do this. I need to get this done by this time. So the yuga also, like the activity, how the life is styled, also kind of makes us, propels us into this mode of Rajoguna, where there's always something to achieve. There's always something to prove. And, we are running after that. So let's see how this is binding. The whole material world is more or less in the mode of passion. Modern civilization is considered to be advanced in the standard of the mode of passion. Formerly, the advanced condition was considered to be in the mode of goodness. If there's no liberation for those in the mode of goodness, what to speak of those who are entangled in the mode of passion? So we do see like this, a note mentions that earlier, the mode of goodness, Brahmanas had more say in things. But nowadays, we see that Brahmanas are also taking up to this material culture, and, because they need to make a living or for whatever reasons they're offering, everybody's catching up to this mode of passion in this material world. So this is truly binding in that sense. Let's move on for, I don't know, a time check. Okay. So bondage by tamoguna. Tamastva jnana vidhi mohanam sarva dehinam pramadalasya nidrabhi tannibhadnati bharata. Know that the mode of darkness, born of ignorance, is the delusion of all embodied living entities. This mode binds the jiva with madness, laziness, nidra alasya, okay, and pramada. Madness, laziness, and sleep, O son of Bharata. Okay, so these are the symptoms, nidra, alasya, pramada, of of tamoguna, when a person is bound by tamoguna. So sometimes we do experience this too, right? The fast pace of the material world. At some point of time, we are kind of wondering what's happening around me. And, when it goes a little too fast for our comfort, we kind of, are, in a state like where we totally freeze in one sense, and we're like, oh my God, what am I doing? And sometimes people get depressed or they get anxious as to what's happening. Things are just moving ahead of me. I don't know how to keep pace with this. And so sometimes people go into that mode of inaction totally. They freeze totally. And then, they take to like these habits of, say drugs or, like so many different habits to just get over that feeling of depression like that. And also some people tend to feel very anxious, and then and because they don't know how to deal with the fastness of the material life. So these are things which we are seeing happening, right, in our present day circumstances. So we are seeing that the bondage by tamo and rajo are actually very obvious in our lives. right? So many times we feel, oh my God, this life is running so fast, and I'm really not able to keep pace with this life. So, but then we just try to move on, prod on like that. But sometimes people may not have the strength or the energy to do that, and then they may totally slack off and get depressed and things like that. So uh, uh, so so that is again the bondage by tamoguna. Let's see what example is given here. For example, everyone can see that his father has died, and therefore he will also die. Man is mortal. The children that he conceives will also die. So death is sure. Still, people are madly accumulating money and working hard, very hard, all day and night, not caring for the eternal spirit. This is madness. In their madness, they are very reluctant to make advancement in spiritual understanding. Such people are very lazy. I think I have given this example before, but still, because it comes to my mind, I would like to, again give this example of how we are carried away by these modes of material nature and whatever our thoughts and processes are. So once there was a very distinguished speaker, very senior devotee from ISKCON, one Mataji, who was giving a class on Mana Siksha by Raghunath Das Goswami. So she was Mana Siksha is actually that level of introspection for a devotee, like this is at the advanced stage where a devotee is trying to introspect and see that even like say, I'm a devotee and I'm doing devotional service, I'm engaged in a whole plethora of services. But then what is my actual intent inside of me? Is it are there any lurking material tendencies behind those devotional service? Externally, I'm appearing as one of the best devotees who's doing like seva from morning to night and all that, but what's actually going on in my heart? So it's like more of an introspection kind. The manasiksha verses are to for a person who's reaching those advanced stages and trying to introspect and see, am I really being that big devotee I'm portraying and showing off to others? So that's what Raghunath Das Goswami actually gives there in that. So she's talking on this, okay, like where we are trying to introspect and see, are we serious devotees? We may be apparently engaging in services the whole day and and speaking Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, and doing all seva and everything, but what is going on inside of us? So Mana Siksha. So what is actually our? So that's what the topic is. Mana Siksha talks about like introspection at the deepest level of your consciousness to see if you're actually in Krishna consciousness like that. And so she gave the whole class on this, and like an hour and a half and two. And then the person one of the audience, one of the person who heard this is like, I liked your class very much and I now know what I should be doing. I work in the stock market, so now I got a clear idea of how I should be acting in the stock market and where I should invest. And Mataji was like, oh my God, after an hour and a half of class on Manasiksha, I mean, the person is saying, now I know what I should be doing, how I should be trading in the stock market. She's like, how, so that just shows how engrossed we are in this material madness, that even when we hear this transcendental topics, they just go over the head, like they say, right, over the head transmission. So that much of pramada, that much madness, that much of craze is there in this material world, that sometimes like even when I was not introduced to Krishna consciousness, in the beginning, uh, my sister-in-law, she came into Krishna consciousness much earlier to me, and I used to find, like, she used to say, all this is Maya, don't be attracted by this and that, and I was like, I know I was very young at that. I was just married, and what, is she crazy or something? I used to ask me, has she joined some cult or something like that? So we, in the mode of ignorance, we cannot even recognize, right, the value of devotees and what they're trying to tell us, what they're trying to preach to us. So like that, this this bondage of this material modes actually makes us blind to spiritual knowledge in that sense. So that's how this bondage happens. There's like so much to be said on this topic, but yeah, I may have to cut corners here and there, just for time. Okay, so this is in an essence the summary verse of all the what we saw so far. Sattvam sukhe sanjayati raja karmani bharata jnanamavritya tu tamaha pramade sanjayatyuta. O son of Bharata, the mode of goodness conditions one to happiness, passion conditions one to fruitive actions, and ignorance covering one's knowledge binds one to madness. So we see, like we just discussed this in great detail. So I'm not going to actually go into too much detail and read this. So maybe we'll take a minute if anybody wants to read what's there in that paragraph.
Shall I, Mataji?
Yes, Mataji, if you'd like to, you can read aloud.
O son of Bharata, the mode of goodness conditions one to happiness, passion conditions one to fruitive action, and ignorance covering one's knowledge binds one to madness. A person in the mode of... Shall I continue, Mataji?
Yes, Mata.
A
Thank
person
you.
in the mode of goodness is satisfied by his work or intellectual pursuit, just as a philosopher, scientist, or educator may be engaged in a particular field of knowledge and may be satisfied in that way. A man in the mode of passion may be engaged in a fruitive way. He owns as much as he can and spends for good causes. Sometimes he tries to open hospitals, give to charity institutions, etc. These are signs of one in the mode of passion, and the mode of ignorance covers knowledge. In the mode of ignorance, whatever one does is good neither for him nor for anyone. Thank you,
Yeah,
Mataji.
the last line is, thank you, Mataji. The last line is so illuminating, right? Whatever one does is in the mode of ignorance is good neither for him nor for anybody. So that's really not a mode we want to situate ourselves in. So next we are moving on to how these modes actually, compete among how the competition amongst, happens among these modes. So we will know that, the mode of passion is higher sometimes, or the mode of ignorance is higher, or sometimes the mode of goodness is higher by observing these symptoms. When we feel very happy, content, peaceful, satisfied like that. So at that time, we are to understand that, we are in a mode of goodness like that, we are more situated in this mode of goodness. But then when we have this feelings of greed, hankering, trying to over endeavor, like atyahara prayashascha prajalponiyamagraha. So when we're trying to over endeavor for things and we have uncontrollable desires, like, uh, in one sense, like I was mentioning earlier, to this modern world pushes us right to this kind of greed and hankering. There is, there is this, at least in Texas, we have this No Child Left Behind Act, where every child must be given that basic education, which is a good thing. I mean, so that they can survive in the world. But then we've all seen that that meme, or that the cartoon or the picture of that uh, of the different animals trying to climb the tree like that, right? The elephant trying to climb the tree, the monkey trying to climb the tree, the ant trying to climb the tree like that. So everybody is in different levels, right, when we are born into this material world. But if we try to push everybody into the same, uh, uh, to the same purpose or to the same goal, it'll be like a square peg in a round hole, right? Like the person may not really fit in, and there's always this sense of discontentment and not achieving enough and things like that, because we sometimes trying to go beyond our swabhava. So that's why it's advised that we take enough career counseling and things like that, and we tend to stick to what our qualities are, so that way we can be more peacefully situated. Like for a person who is generally peace loving and likes to take to arts, what will he be doing in a business environment, right? He'd be totally like, I don't know, I'm kind of lost, and he'll totally get burnt out like that. But we do those things for various reasons. We put ourselves in those positions, maybe to make a living, or whatever the pressing demand may be like that. But then this increases these feelings of greed, hankering, intense endeavor. We tend to endeavor beyond our capacity, and so because we want to reach that aim or that goal like that. So when we see ourselves doing intense endeavor like that, or having too much greed or hankering, so that is a depiction of mode of passion. And when the mode of ignorance increases, like I said, this is like madness, illusion, and laziness. So you couldn't care less for what's happening. You just indulge in laziness, sleep, and taking to like the bad habits, like maybe drinking. You think drinking will give you uh, some respite away from the problems of the material world. So those are all like mode of ignorance, when we tend to recognize these. So this is in a mundane perspective. Um, and then this is like the destination, of the people in those modes, like people who act in those modes. So what happens is discussed in these verses 14 through 18. In the mode of goodness, when a person passes away in the mode of goodness, he reaches the higher planets, like we know, right? The three planetary system, the earthly planets, the higher planets, and then the lower planetary systems, and then the hellish planets, like that. So when a person, passes away in a mode of goodness, he reaches these higher planets, like, Jana, Tapa, Mahar, Loka, like that, like where all the sages, they actually, I read that, they are more in their subtle bodies than gross material bodies, like that. So they have all their wishes fulfilled. They can travel around the space, go up and down, do all kinds of things like that. So people reach, like you can go as much as Vargaloka and Brahmaloka, like that. But what happens? Shine Punye, Matya Lokam Vishanti. So even if you can go all to the topmost of the planets, you'll at some point when your price credits are done, you fall down to the earthly planet. So a person who is more in this, engaged in this mode of passion, or who has so many desires left unfulfilled like that, he or she will again, appear in earthly planets because they want to still fulfill their desires and, do all those things. And then and then people in the mode of ignorance, they go to the lower planetary systems, or, Prabhupada says that they are born as animals like that. Some people in mode of ignorance may take to meat eating and several like bad habits like that. So then you get those forms of life where you can enjoy your tendencies limitlessly like that. Then the result of the action in mode of goodness is very purifying, right? It's illuminating, it's purifying, and it gives you a sense of calm and peace like that. And then result of action in mode of passion is misery. We think that, okay, I have achieved something, I set my eyes on this. Hey, I achieved it, I'm so happy. But then that happiness lasts for a moment, like it's like a threshold. As soon as you cross, there's something else comes up in your mind, and you're chasing that like that. So this is a constant source of misery. A very uh, a simple example, I should say, is given that, a person who likes sweets, say rasgulla or gulab jamun, and you tend to eat more and more and more, thinking that it's so nice. But then what happens afterwards is misery, right? So this is what the mode of passion, can give us misery, the more and more we indulge in it. And foolishness or ajnana, the mode or result of action in mode of ignorance uh, is actually tama in that sense, like uh, a person is covered by this falseness. He's not like, let's just say it's in one sense opposite of the mode of goodness, where this person is in knowledge, but this person is going into the depths of ignorance in that sense. He's like ignorant in that sense. And that's what the mode of ignorance, the result of actions and mode of ignorance is. We also saw earlier that how action in mode of ignorance is neither good to ourselves, or it does no good to others too. So it's very destructive in nature like that. So what develops because of mode of goodness is knowledge. Like we know, knowledge is illuminating. Knowledge gives us, knowledge is power, as they say in English. And so it makes you feel satisfied, when you are in the know of things. But lack of knowledge puts us in anxiety, right? Like that. And mode of passion the more we associate and take to, hey, I'm going to do this and then stop at that, but then that stop never comes. So it gives rise to greed. And then the mode of ignorance, laziness, all those things which we saw, it gives rise to foolishness, madness, and ignorance. So these are what develop of the mode of ignorance. I'm sure like we can give several hundreds of examples in this, but but yeah, I think that kind of gives a sense of what are the effects are. I just wanted to take a brief digression and see, because these modes, like so long, they have been discussed in one sense in very mundane terms, like how people are, how does a devotee actually apply it in their lives? How do we recognize this? So I was listening to a class, from a brahmachari in Chapati, and I just got these points. So these, the how devotees are affected, how do we know when a devotee is acting in a mode of goodness or passion or ignorance? This subject matter is actually discussed in the third canto of the Srimad Bhagavata, where Lord Kapila is instructing his mother on the science of devotional service. So at that point, these are a bunch of verses which actually summarize, how devotional service in the three different modes, what are the symptoms and what happens. So I'll just read through. It's very, or if anybody is inspired, they can also read the first two verses, please.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Yeah, please go ahead, Mata.
Yeah. So, are devotees affected by the three modes? So, Srimad Bhagavatam 3.29.7, Lord Kapila, the personality of Godhead, replied, O noble lady, there are multifarious paths of devotional service in terms of the different qualities of the executor. Can I continue? Should I continue, Mataji?
Yes,
or
Mataji.
Somebody else can? Oh, okay.
Now you can read the 8th one too, Mata.
Okay, 3.29.8, devotional service executed by a person who is envious, proud, violent, and angry, and who is separatist is considered to be in the mode of darkness.
Thank you, Mataji. Yeah, we see here that, Lord Kapila is saying that there are multifarious paths of devotional service in terms of the different qualities of the executor. So the verse actually says, Svabhava Guna, of the person. So depending on the different qualities, we can, see how this person is affected by the three modes. So for a person who is envious, proud, violent, and angry, and who's a separatist, by separatist, what actually Prabhupada means here is that he has separate goals or aims other than Krishna consciousness or Krishna service to Krishna as the center, but who has selfish or other motivations behind the devotional service, when they are not motivated towards serving Krishna but to fulfill some of their aspirations or whatever that is, then that's what Prabhupada calls it as separatist. He also mentions that for the person who is acting the mode of passion too. So who's envious, proud, violent, and angry. So this is also again described in the purport by Srila Prabhupada, that this person thinks of himself as self-righteous, like he or she thinks that, I'm the best devotee and, I know the best, and others are totally not up to it, and, they lack this, they lack that. So, they are very proud of what they know, and, they don't tend to respect the other devotee like that. And the examples, this, like I said, I was listening in a class. These are the three examples which are given. Like for the mode of, the devotee who is more in the mode of ignorance, the example of Daksha is given. So Daksha, when he was performing that yajna, and his guru, in one sense, Brahma, was seated, he did not take offense to that. But when he saw that Lord Shiva was also seated, he got very angry, and he gets violent too, and there's like a big war happening between Daksha's men and Shiva's Ganas, like that. So many things happen. So he was the three qualities, which are being described here is, so this person, Daksha thinks that he is very great like that, he knows everything, and he feels very offended because Lord Shiva did not get up to give him the respects like that. The second point is that, in the means of, trying to degrade Lord Shiva, he also gets angry with his spiritual master in that sense, like with Brahma in that sense, and he says, because of this Brahma, I married off my daughter to this kind of filthy person, like, who doesn't have a good lifestyle and things like that. So that level of devotion to the guru is also at a very superficial level, like it's not like a person will tend to follow the agya of the guru in the full earnest, like that, to actually perform pure devotional service. So that level of dedication or devotion to the guru is also at a superficial level. So, and also there was another point Prabhuji had mentioned. Let me try to pull that up. Yeah. Yeah, and they also consider, like material, sorry. Just give me 1 second. Yeah, they also consider like they do not give enough respect to the guru in that sense, that it's at a very superficial level. And so when we see that we are acting in such a way, and and this we can recognize that this is in a mode of ignorance, like when this is very materially kind of in one sense motivated. It's not like we're not actually trying to do devotional service in that sense, but we're trying to gratify our senses. We try to do so many services so that we want to be portrayed as the most powerful, or the most whatever best devotee, like that. And then the ninth verse talks about the worship of deities in the temple by a separatist. Say again, Prabhupada uses this word separatist, with the motive for material enjoyment, fame, and opulence, is devotion in the mode of passion. So, like we may be taking to different devotional services in the temple, but that is just for, like our own fame, our own aggrandizement, or sometimes even, to execute our power over others, like sometimes we have those tendencies too. So when it's done in that sense, it is devotion in the mode of passion. And then the example of Dhruva Maharaja is given in that sense. So when Narada Muni actually approached Dhruva Maharaja, and he told him to take up this devotional service, now Dhruva Maharaja still had that he wanted to achieve a bigger kingdom than his father had. And so that though he listened to the advice of his guru, but still there was some material motivation, right, behind. He had that kind of motivation to get that bigger kingdom, like that. So so a person who is in this mode of passion, who's practicing devotional service, they may be following their guru's advice, like that, but or instructions, but there may be some motivation behind them actually following that. And then when a devotee worships the Supreme Personality of Godhead and offers the results of his activities in order to free himself from the inebriaties or fruitive activities, his devotion is in the mode of goodness. So this is, Prithu Maharaj's example is given. So the 99th or the 100, which is greater? So that was the title for Back to Godhead magazine discussing this topic. So Prithu Maharaja was conducting this sacrifice, and Indra actually stops him there. So at that time, Brahma approaches him and says, Prithu, hey, forgive him, let go. 100 sacrifice doesn't mean everything. 99 is good enough. So Prithu Maharaj, he is situated in the mode of goodness. He immediately listens to his guru and gives up that desire for fame or anything that was going on. So that is in the mode of goodness. So Lord Vishnu himself gives him darshan at that time, and Lord Vishnu asks Indra to beg forgiveness from him, like that. So that is in like described as in a mode of goodness. When a devotee is practicing in a mode of goodness, like they are not too attached to this fruits of their activities or the devotional service, and they are more actually focused or fixed on worshipping the Supreme Lord like that. The manifestation of unadulterated devotional service is exhibited when one's mind is at once attracted to hearing the transcendental name and qualities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is residing in everyone's heart. Just as the water of the Ganges flows naturally down towards the ocean, such devotional ecstasy, uninterrupted by any material condition, flows towards the Supreme Lord. So this last, the 11th and 12th, they speak about, pure devotional service. So at this point of pure devotional service, a person is very naturally attracted to hearing about the glories of the Lord, and is in that state of pure devotion to the Lord like that. So this was like the connecting verse. So now we saw so many details about how the modes binders and things like that. And now what can we do to actually, I'm so much past time, but I will try to wind up in a few. I'm sorry about that. I was thinking this is a short chapter and I'll be finishing it earlier, but this is strange. Anyways, so this is the connecting verse, which is actually enlightening, which enlightens us as to what we must do, when these modes are acting. And given this material body, we are bound by this mode. So what can we do to get out of it? नान्यं गुणेभ्यः कर्तारं यदा द्रष्टानुपश्यति गुणेभ्यश्च परं वेत्ति मद्भावं सोऽधिगच्छति. When one properly sees that in all activities no other performer is at work than these modes of nature, and he knows the Supreme Lord who is transcendental to all these modes, he attains my spiritual nature. This is what Krishna says here. So when one sees that, okay, one can distance the person, the soul, from these material modes, and see that these are just the modes acting. I just need to maintain my cool and calm and continue with my devotional service. That's when I will be peaceful, and we can attain the supreme nature like that. So at this point of time, just like how in the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna asked, right, like what are the symptoms of dhira, like how does he sit, eat, walk, and things like that. So the same kind of questions are again posed by Arjuna here. Gunatita. So who has crossed these, how can a person cross these material modes? And so that is what are the symptoms of such a person, or what does he do, how does he behave, things like that. Arjuna Vacha. So there are 3 questions and then 3 answers for this. Kailingay strin gunanetan atito bhavati prabho kimachara katham chaitams strin gunan ativartate. Arjuna inquired, "O my Lord, by which symptoms is one known who is transcendental to these 3 modes? What is his behavior, and how does he transcend the modes of nature?" So the question 1 is in verse 1422. What symptoms is he known, like a person who's transcendental? And what is his behavior is answered in 23 to 25. And what is the process of transcending these material modes is answered in 1426, which is the penultimate verse and the very key verse in this chapter. So let's quickly go through these answers. So what are the symptoms and what is his behavior? So this is answered in these verses 22 through 25. I'm skipping the Sanskrit, let's for want of time. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "O son of Pandu, who does not hate elimination, attachment, and delusion, he who does not hate elimination, attachment, and delusion when they're present, or long for them when they disappear, who is unwavering and undisturbed through all these reactions of the material qualities, remaining neutral and transcendental, knowing that the modes alone are active, who is situated in the self and regards alike happiness and distress, who looks upon a lump of earth, a stone, and a piece of gold with an equal eye, who is equal toward the desirable and the undesirable, who is steady situated equally well in praise and blame, honor and dishonor, who treats alike both friend and enemy, and who has renounced all material activities. Such a person is said to have transcended the modes of nature." So this basically means that, as living entities, we will, because of the action of these modes of material nature, and because we are in this material body, these forces will tend to attack us at all points of time. But, how do we like even like how in the second chapter to Kurmong, like the example of how a tortoise actually withdraws itself into its shell, right? Similarly, a person who is transcendental through these three modes, he actually withdraws into his own self, and he can stay aloof. So, many devotees think that I'm into devotional service, but still problems. I still have so many problems, so many, in fact, more problems sometimes. And what is happening? What's the use of me doing any kind of devotional service and things like that? But then devotional service gives us the strength to actually realize that we are not this body. We are falsely identifying with this illusion. The next chapter, in chapter 15, we'll see how this material world is a pervert reflection, right, of the spiritual world, and it's just a reflection. There's like not no reality in that sense. The actual reality, the chit, is actually there in the spiritual world, but then this material world is a temporary manifestation like that. So it's like a mirage in one sense, a reflection. There's a nice story regarding that too. Maybe if time is there, I can give that story. So this is a person who is very neutrally situated, and he's not affected by this mode. So let's move on. So then we, like we saw earlier, so these are the answers given by Krishna for the three questions. And what is the process of liberating oneself from these modes? So that answer is given in this 26th verse. It's a very key verse. Mam chayo vyabhicharena bhakti yogena sevate saguna samatitaitan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. One who engages in full devotional service, unfailing in all circumstances, at once transcends the modes of the material natures, and thus comes to the level of Brahman. So one who engages in full devotional service, unfailing in all circumstances, at once transcend. Okay. Bhakti Yoga means that the Lord is there, the devotee is there, and the activity of exchange of love between the Lord and the devotee is there. Therefore, the individuality of two persons is present in the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the individual person. Otherwise, there would be no meaning to Bhakti Yoga. So here, why is this being explained here is because in the next verse, which we'll see, it will talk about the Brahman effulgence, the liberation or the peace in the Brahman effulgence. So that's why it's important, Prabhupada says when we move on to the next verse, where Krishna says, Brahmano hi pratishtaha amritasya avyayasya cha shashvatasya cha dharmasya sukhasya aikantikasya cha. So I'm the basis or shelter of impersonal Brahman, which is immortal, imperishable, and eternal, and is the constitutional position or platform of ultimate bliss. So Krishna actually ends this chapter with this verse, saying that he's the basis of Brahman. And this kind of also got me thinking, like, because the penultimate verse, 26th verse, is talking about Bhakti Yoga, and then the next verse is talking about impersonal Brahman. And it says that it is the constitutional position of ultimate happiness. So we are to understand that more is going to come, in the next chapters. Like the next chapter is Purushottama Yoga, the yoga of the Supreme Person, like that. So more will be discussed, and this is just a stepping point, the first stage in the realization, that a person, the example is given of like the coconut shell, the dried coconut within a coconut shell. So how a dry coconut, it's inside the coconut shell, but again, when we actually shake the coconut, we can hear the dry coconut inside. So similarly, like the verse iha yasya hare dasi karmana manasa gira, it states that nikhilasvapi avasthasu jivan mukta sauchite. So even while being in this world, a person who has taken to this mamchayo avya vicharena bhakti yogena sevita, who has taken to this devotion service, can actually be freed from this and experience this bliss, this Brahmana bliss, which is being described in this verse 14:27. So they can still experience this bliss of the Brahman. Like advanced devotees or pure devotees of the Lord, they appear to be walking on this planet, but still they are experiencing this Brahman bliss, which is being described here. Also, the other verse, Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma, which talks of a person who is very neutrally situated, and he or she is not influenced by the mood. So that's why Krishna ends this, on this. But this is not the end all or aim for the devotee. Like Prabhupada describes in the purport, devotional service covers more than just this. There is not only that peace, but then there's also interacting, loving interactions between the devotee and the Lord. Like, sorry if I'm taking, but I'll take this one extra minute to explain this. I was listening in one of the classes, this example, like, supposing there's a couple and who are having a fight or an argument between them. So for some days, they do not talk to each other. And then after some days, that is in that mode of fighting, like they really don't even want to see each other's face like that. And then after a few days, they come to the terms that, they leave notes. The wife, cooks the meal or does the cleaning, or the husband gets the groceries or cleans up, or, does whatever, and they just leave notes and still not on talking terms or anything like that. They just carry their duties and they just live in that house, but, they are in their own ways like that. It's very peaceful, right? Like for some time the peace goes on, like you are happy doing your chores, I'm happy doing my chores, no need to talk. And but then after some time it again gets boring, right? Like after some time you realize that what's happening, there's no love or interaction taking place. So then they again start talking, and then there are, they discuss things and go about the normal way of things. So similarly, this Brahman level is like the first step, where you say, okay, I realize I'm not part of this material world, and I can still be peaceful if I remain detached from the moods like that. But then what do you do after that? So that all, it will be covered in the next few chapters. Like we will be seeing how we can perform nice devotional service to the Lord like that. So I'm again, my apologies, I went over time on this. There's a summary slide. So I would like to, some of my slides did not get saved for some reason. So I'd like to just give this as a summary. This is a nice acronym to remember what are the contents of this chapter. I'd like to pause here, and please forgive me if I made any mistakes in my presentation or in my understanding, and please feel free to correct me. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Can I go ahead? Oh,
Sure.
okay. Thank you so much, Sagari Mataji. It was a very, very interesting, very beautiful class. You summarized everything with relevant examples from both real life and also from scripture, like the three modes, as you were talking from the fourth canto, and also how actually these three modes are so common in our life too. From day in and day out, we have these three modes going on. So thank you for the initial overview of the sections and the final summary that helps us understand the chapter in totality. And thank you for doing, as always. I mean, Mataji, you are all Jambavan in this, so I don't have to give any specific comments about how beautiful the class is, but your class is very, very beautiful. Thank you so much. And I did have a question, if I can ask.
Yes, please, Mataji, if I can answer, I'll answer. I know your level of questions. So.
No,
Otherwise,
no.
Lalitangi is always there.
Yeah.
The Pandita Bhagavad Gita, walking Bhagavad Gita is with us, so she can help.
I was curious since when you were telling like the flow, you were going like really beautiful. And at the end, in this chapter, Krishna tells about the devotees who are beyond the modes. But then why he should be, I mean, I'm just asking, I found this Brahmano hi pratishtaham a little irrelevant to be the last verse. So why is it the last verse?
Yeah, I had the same question to Preeti. In fact, I reached out to Gaurang Darshan Prabhu last night, and Prabhu, this is somehow not sitting in the sequence of the chapter to me. The penultimate verse, like you said, is describing, Mam Chayo Abhyabhicharin, like devotional service, and that's how you will transcend the modes. And then the next verse is talking about Brahmano hi pratishtaham. I do have a feeling, like in the next verse, Krishna goes on to, like the yoga of the Supreme Person is actually discussed, like the material world is a poor reflection and a perverted reflection and all that. This is kind of a segue verse. And also I went through Srila Prabhupada's purport a couple of times. Maybe that is more illuminating than what is there on the slide. So Prabhupada says very clearly in that verse that this is like the first step, in God realization, in the science of realization. But then there is more to it. A devotee aspires for a pure devotional service actually to Krishna, a relationship with Krishna, and that devotional service actually covers this Brahma Sukha also. So I had the same question, I had asked Gaurang Darshan Prabhu, and he was like, there is Sukha in Brahmananda, right? Like they call Brahmananda. But I was like, but why is Krishna even mentioning this here, after talking of devotional service? So that's the explanation I got, is that, just to understand that, hey, Brahman is in fact, Krishna is the basis of the Brahman. So it's wrong to think that Brahman is the end all or overall like that. But Krishna, this further Krishna, who is actually the basis, of this Brahman. So that makes us wonder, right? That makes us think as to, okay, I've reached this Brahma Bhuta stage. So what do I do next? So then you take up to the devotional process like that and situate yourself in pure devotional service to the Lord.
Makes sense. So he talks about the devotee who's beyond correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm not referring to the verses in the chapter, but then I just hearing your class, I'm trying to repeat. If I'm wrong, correct me. So first he mentions about the devotee who's beyond the modes and he is a perfect devotee or whatever. He glorifies the devotee. Then he says that, but this Bhagavan, this Krishna, that Bhagavan to whom you're doing devotion, is the basis of even the impersonal Brahman that people think is perfection. Is that what he's doing?
Yes, man. That's the explanation I got from Gaurang Darshan Prabhu too. He said, I'm like, why is he even quoting this? He says, because Krishna is the basis for that impersonal Brahman. So this is like that step, where the neutral kind of, like, there is this chart, Radhesham Prabhu describes it, where there's negative, neutral, and then positive. So that neutral, that zero mark is that, where you realize, where you disconnect yourself and don't identify with these modes and are in that state of peace or the Brahma Sukha like that. And then, you take up to the positive process of devotional service. So that's how it is understood, Mataji.
Nice, Mataji. Very, very nice. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for this very interesting class. And yeah, I learned a lot. I've been learning a lot in this entire series. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Mataji, for your inspiration and your motivation. I know it kind of sounds cheesy, but you're my Siksha Guru. You put me, in so many different
It should be the
things.
other way around. What are you talking about, Mataji?
No, yeah, you are always giving Siksha, trying to, like that wayward devotee who's going in all directions. You're like, hey, come here, take this class. You have to give this. Every now and then you pull me back on devotional service. So grateful and indebted to you for that. Thank you, Mataji. And
thank you for your association.
I know if
Hari Bol,
Lalitangi
Mataji.
Mataji wants to add or something.
Hare Krishna Mataji, thank you so much for the wonderful class and each and every slide with your personal experience and practical application of it. That was beautiful, Mataji. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hari Bol, Mataji. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Shri Guru and Gauranga. Mataji, wonderful, wonderful, very beautiful class. And you explained everything very nicely and deeply. Your slides and presentation were so nice. So everybody can understand these all things about the modes of nature, how it works on our living entity, and how we should come out from this material mode of nature. You explained very nicely. So very, very thank you, Mataji.
Mataji, sorry to interrupt you, but I don't know who created the slides. Actually, Preeti gave me the link.
It is Radhika Kasturi Mataji.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. thanks to
Very
her, like,
good.
yeah, I just took off the slides from there. But yeah, I mean, the content I spoke was, like you said, based on what I listened from other senior devotees. But the slides, I took the help from Bhakti
It's
Sangha.
okay, but you explain everything nicely by the slides. It was very beautiful, Mataji. So, and I'm so grateful to Srila Prabhupada that he just gives everything in details, what is the transcendental knowledge, and we can understand by his purport. So I'm so grateful to our dear Srila Prabhupada, to Mataji. So,
All
Mataji,
glories
you
to
have time?
Srila Prabhupada.
Yeah. Mataji, you have time?
Yes,
Anybody
Mataji, I've taken off for the holidays.
Yeah, anybody have any question?
Hare
Mataji.
Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. Hare Krishna
Dandavat
Sagari Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. Very, very beautiful class, Mataji. Thank you so much for detailed explanation of each and every verse. I really like the acronym and also the stories that you explained for each verse, especially you were talking about that manasiksha, the example that you gave. I am perfect example for that. Everybody says you're doing all the time service. I know what my brain is there. Every time I may look like I am doing everything, but I am everywhere. I am not even concentrating on Krishna even a minute. I can understand. I fall there. Thank you so much,
No,
Mataji.
you're an example of, I don't know if I'm even right in saying this, but fake it till you make it, kind of. So you are there, like always inspiring others like that. So you're the other example, not this example.
But very, very nice class, Mataji. Thank you. You wanted to say some story. You said if time is there, you want to, but I think it's okay. You can tell that story.
Yeah, I was listening to this story, like how I was, trying to explain this, how a person transcends this modes of material nature and, sees the material world as different, or as a reflection like that. So there was one story I recently heard regarding that, and it will make a good segue to chapter 15 also, like that. So there is once a queen, with all her friends. She's taking her bath in a river, or like a pond like that. And then she loses some jewelry of hers, and she goes and tells the king that, hey, I lost my jewelry, when I was on the bank, but taking my bath, but I need it back. So the king is like, I'll make some new jewelry for you. It's okay, you don't have to worry about that. But then the queen says, no, there is sentimental value to it. My best friend had given it to me, and so I need that jewelry by any chance. So the king then announces and makes announcements, and says that anybody who finds that piece of jewelry will be rewarded very nicely. So if you find it, please come and give it to me, like that. So people are searching for it, and there's actually one person who sees this jewelry in that pond, in that lake there, like that. And then he keeps gazing at it, and he's trying to remove the jewelry like piece from there, like that, but then he's not able to. And then a sage actually comes by there, and he sees that jewelry there, and then this person doesn't want to even tell the sage that the jewelry is there, because he's like, what if he takes away? But then he gives up his efforts in finding that piece of jewelry. And then he tells the sage that, I'm trying to actually pick that up. I see that in the pond, and I'm trying to put my hands and trying to grab it from there for so long, but I'm totally failing in all my efforts. I don't know what to do. The sage is the wise person, and he knows exactly what's happening. So he says, don't worry, I will help you with that. And then he climbs the tree and gets the jewelry and gives it to that man, and says, see, the real thing was up there on the tree, and what you were seeing there was just a reflection of it. It's not the real thing. So you're seeking for the the happiness in the material world is like trying to find that ring in that pond of water, where it's not actually there. So it's just a material, in one sense, like a mirage, you can say. It's just an illusion there. The material world is like an illusion. So it is short-lived, it's temporary. So if we are trying to find happiness there, we're going to end up in that same position as that person who was trying to pick up the ring from the pond. So we need to transcend the modes and situate ourselves in devotional service, so we can actually get the real sukha, like this Brahmananda, at least you can come to this Brahmananda platform, even when we are situated in the material body in this, in this life, like that. I don't know if it makes sense, but I thought
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
so
very,
nice.
very beautiful story, Mataji. As you said, it is good start for the 15th chapter. Thank you, Mataji. So true. We are trying to get the happiness which is from the, from which is not real. Actually, we need to go raise ourselves above and see for the real happiness. Thank you so much, Mataji. That
Thank you,
that
Mataji.
story is very, very nice. Very grateful to you.
Thank you for your inspiring services always. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Sukha Krishna Prabhu, go ahead.
Yeah. Hare Krishna, Sagari Mataji was so
Hare Krishna,
wonderful.
Prabhuji.
So nice, because this three modes is the thing which Krishna has introduced to everyone. He told the Maya Devi to put, because of that we are all stuck here. And you did it so nicely, and it's in the 14th chapter. It'll come in the 17th chapter. Again, it'll come in the 18th chapter also. So you just told that this is the thing which is the biggest stumbling block. So only Krishna is the solution, because he only has the power. He is above the three modes. So nice, man. So wonderful, and lot of stories were so exciting. Thank you, Mataji. All the best. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji, for your kind blessings. Prabhuji especially blessed me, with his message. And then I think it's purely because of Vaishnava's blessings, I'm able to speak a few words.
You are a wonderful speaker, and you do the classes, the shlokas also. Everywhere you are there. All the best.
So thanks
Hare
to
Krishna.
Preeti and the organizers.
Bhakti Sangha singer.
Yes.
Yes.
Are there any more questions or comments?
Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Is there any more questions to Mataji?
Mataji, we have chat messages. I will read that for you. Chaya Mataji saying, Hare Krishna, Mataji, a very wonderful class. Lot of practical examples. Thank you so much. Enjoyed the class. Other Mataji, yoga, some Mataji or Prabhuji. I don't know. Yeah, yoga Gudivada. Thank you for the wonderful class, Mataji. Yeah.
Thank you, Mataji. Mataji, I was wondering if it's okay with all. When I was trying to prepare for the chapter, a couple of verses from Kulashekara Alvar's Mukundamala came to my mind. Is it okay to recite them and close? Is it okay, Mata?
Yes,
Do we have time?
Yes.
Mataji didn't remind us to Mataji.
Yeah, so this is just a couple of verses. भवजलधिमगाधं दुस्तरं निस्तरेयं कथमहमिति चेतो मास्मगाः कातरत्वं सरसिजदृशि देवे तारकी भक्तिरेक नरकभिधि निषन्ना तारयिष्यत्यवश्यम्. The translation is, Dear mind, do not bewilder yourself by anxiously thinking, how can I cross this fathomless and impassable ocean of material existence? There is one who can save you. Devotion. If you offer her to the lotus-eyed Lord, the killer of Narakasura, Narakabhidhi, she will carry you across this ocean without fail. And then the following verse. Trishna toye madana pavano dhuta mohormimale दारावर्ते तनय सहजग्राह संघा कुले च संसाराख्ये महति जलधौ मच्छतां न स्त्रीधामन् पादाम्भोजे वरद भवतो भक्तिनावं प्रयच्छ. O Lord of the three worlds, we are drowning in the vast ocean of samsara, which is filled with the waters of material hankering, with many waves of illusion whipped up by the winds of lust, with whirlpools of wives, and with vast schools of sharks and other monsters who are our sons and brothers. That is Daravarte Tanaya Sahajagraha Sangha Kulita. O giver of all benedictions, please grant me a place on the boat of devotion, that is your lotus feet. Vishnu Poto Naranam. That's another verse also that comes to my mind. Purashekara Alvar quotes in this context. The boat of devotion. So it's very inspiring like that. Thank you for giving me opportunity to recite it.
Hari Bol, Mataji, Hari Bol.
Thank you, Mata. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Mataji, you should make a playlist for Mukundamala on YouTube.
Yeah, I will. I should make one. You're right.
You got a very good Carnatic bass.
Yeah, Prabhu. I trained a little bit in Carnatic music, so still training.
Thank you, Mataji. Yes, Mataji. Thank you all so much. Thank you, Sagari Mataji and Srimati Mataji will end the call.
Yes, Mataji. Thank you very much, Mataji,
Thank you. Always Shishi Guru and God.
for your very, very enlightening class today. And we are very grateful to you, Mataji. And we are look forward to your association again in future. And if nobody have any question or if your permission, can we end our call?
Sure.
Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai.
Jai.
Shri Bhagavad Gita ki, Srimad Bhagavad
Jai.
Gita ki jai.
Jai.
Shri Har Grace Sukh Sagari Mataji ki jai.
Jai
Shishi
Ho.
Guru and God. Srila Prabhupada.
Jai.
Jai Ho,
Gauranga,
Jai.
Nityananda,
Gauranga.
Nityananda, Gauranga,
Gauranga,
Gauranga, Nityananda.
Nityananda,
Gauranga.
जय
Gauranga,
जय श्री
Nityananda.
राधे श्याम सबको मिले
Jai
वृंदावन
Jai
धाम
Shri Ram.
गोवर्धन के लाल की जय हो
Jai.
Jai.
हरे
Hari
कृष्ण
Om.
Hare
Hare Krishna
Krishna.
Mataji. Thank you so
Hare
much.
Krishna.
Thank you.